Hyzon. What's up, millennials? Today we're going to take a look at the valuation of a company called Hyzon Motors. And this is a company that is focusing on hydrogen-fueled commercial vehicles. This company is going to be acquired by the SPAC that's currently trading under the ticker symbol DCRB. Before we start, if at any moment in this video you're like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Please check out my SPAC guide. I released the SPAC guide a few weeks ago. It's going to be in the description. Today we're going to be looking at method number 2. Also, if you need access to the Excel sheet I'm going to be using today, you can join our Discord for free. If you go to nesami.com/discord, you can leave your name, leave your email address. You're going to get access to it. And as always, don't trust me, verify me. I'm just documenting my journey here on YouTube. I could be completely wrong with my analysis. Don't copy my numbers as is. Just take the sheet, for example, and use the methods, but use your own multiples that you believe are fair for this company. Hyzon Motors is a company that focuses on hydrogen-fueled commercial vehicles and also trucks, mainly trucks. And they already have some existing facilities in New York, and they're also working together with another company in the Netherlands, Hyzon, to produce vehicles in this company, or in this country rather, as well, the country where I'm located currently. With regards to the merger date, we don't have a certain date just yet, but they do expect to close the merger somewhere in Q2 of this year. Then if we take a look at their pro forma valuation, we can see that as almost all SPACs, they started trading at $10 per share. And they are going to have 268.2 million shares outstanding after the merger. That means you can already determine the so-called pro forma market cap, which is the market cap after the merger has been completed, by taking those two numbers and multiplying them by each other. So you simply take that $10 multiplied by 268.2 million, and then you arrive at a pro forma equity value or a pro forma market cap, these are the same things, of almost $2.7 billion. So those are also the numbers that you can plug over here in your Excel sheet. The other number you're going to need to plug in is the amount of net cash they are going to have on their balance sheet. And if we look in the investor presentation, we can see that that number is going to be $576 million. So that's a number you can put over here. And then the Excel sheet is already going to calculate the pro forma market cap and also the pro forma enterprise value for you. By simply taking that pro forma market cap we just calculated a minute ago, by subtracting the amount of net cash they're going to have on their balance sheet, and that leaves you with an enterprise value of $2.1 billion. However, if you go into TradingView, you can see that pre-market this company is trading at $12.42. So that is also the number that I plugged over here in my Excel sheet. And now it is already calculating the current pro forma market cap based on this new price of $12.42. So we can now see that the pro forma market cap is a little bit more than 3.3 billion and the current enterprise value is almost 2.8 billion. So based on a price of $12.42, the current enterprise value of Hyzon Motors is $2.8 billion. That is, of course, the pro forma enterprise value. We want to know what a fair enterprise value is for this company. It might be a little bit difficult today, I'm not going to lie, but yeah, let's first do the easy part. Because we're going to need two numbers for this evaluation. First of all, we're going to take a look at the revenue of a certain year. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the revenue of 2024 for Hyzon, actually. And then we're going to apply a certain multiple to that revenue to arrive at a fair enterprise value. So let's take a look first at the revenue. And of course, keep in mind that this is a company that doesn't really have a lot of revenue just yet, but in the future, they do expect to ramp up production significantly. As we can see in the investor presentation, in 2021, they expect to have about $37 million in revenue. In 2022, they expect to have already 198 million, then 2023, 972 million, and then in 2024, 2.2 billion. So yeah, as you can see, they ramp up production very significantly. The question is, are they actually going to achieve these goals? If so, then it's probably an awesome company to invest in right now. But yeah, it is definitely a very difficult goal to achieve, in my opinion. However, this is the number we are going to be using for our valuation video right now. And yeah, of course, keep in mind that this is projected revenue. We don't know for sure if they are going to achieve this, but it is the number we are going to be using. So we are going to be taking that $2.242 billion. We're going to plug it in our Excel sheet, and that is the first step we are going to take. The next step we're going to take is to look at a fair multiple for this company. And right now, as we can see in this page of the valuation benchmarking, basically meaning that they're going to compare their own multiple with the multiples of other similar companies that are publicly traded as well. So we can see that Hyzon's multiple right now is 0.9, basically meaning that if you look at the revenue of 2024, which we just saw was a little bit more than 2.2 billion, the enterprise value of Hyzon is 0.9x that number. As we saw in the beginning of this video, we saw that the enterprise value based on $10 per share was $2.1 billion. So it's a little bit less compared to that revenue of 2024. So let's actually go back to that number we were just looking at, these numbers. So yeah, again, Hyzon's current multiple is 0.9x based on that price of $10 per share. Right now it's a little bit higher, of course, because the price has increased. But if you look at the other companies right here, you can see that the median multiple is way higher compared to that 0.9x. You can see that Fuel Cell Energy has a multiple of 31.4x, Power Cell 29x, Plug Power 22x, Ballard 20x, IDM Power 16x, and then we have some more companies over here. So in general, the multiples are very, very high for this sector, it seems. And I'm not entirely sure if these numbers are too high or not. We're going to be playing around a little bit with all the kinds of different multiples, if you will. But my question to you is going to be, what multiple do you believe is fair for a company like this in hydrogen sector? What multiple do you think is fair to apply to Hyzon Motors? Because again, the median multiple of these companies, of these hydrogen companies, is 20.6x, which seems to be very high to me, and as we'll see later on in this video, is going to produce a very, very high price per share as well. Okay, so let's just play around a little bit with those multiples. Let's first take a relatively low kinds of multiples, a low range of multiples even, because yeah, I've just plugged in a low multiple of 3x and a high multiple of 5x. Let me just first explain the calculation for you, and then we're going to play with some higher multiples as well to see what kind of price per share we would arrive at. So first of all, we know that the expected revenue for 2024 is a little bit more than 2.2 billion. If we take a low multiple, then what the Excel sheet is going to do is simply take that revenue, multiply it by 3 to arrive at a fair enterprise value of $6.7 billion. And it's also going to do that with the high multiple of 5x to arrive at a fair enterprise value of $11.2 billion. And that means that the midpoint valuation, which basically is the average valuation of the low and the high one, is almost $9 billion. But as, of course, the enterprise value, yeah, we want to know what the fair price per share is. And first of all, what you need to do is to go back to a fair market cap. So first of all, and let me put back my lamp because, yeah, I do like to see my spreadsheet quite well, of course. The first thing we need to do is to add back the amount of net cash. And we saw that the amount of net cash is going to be $576 million that they're going to have on their balance sheet. So if you take that enterprise value, add back the amount of net cash, you're going to arrive at these fair market caps. For the low end, that would be 7.3 billion. For the midpoint valuation, 9.5 billion. And for the high valuation, 11.8 billion. And then the only thing you would need to do is to take those market caps, divide them by the amount of outstanding shares after the merger, which is going to be 268.2 million shares. And yet then you would arrive at these fair prices per share. So again, for the low valuation, $27.23. For the midpoint valuation, $35.59. And for the high valuation, $43.94. So as you can see, even with a relatively low range of multiples from 3x on the low end, 5x on the high end, you still arrive at pretty high prices per share. Now, let's just, for fun, go to a higher range of multiples, because we just saw in the investor presentation the median multiple of the hydrogen companies is 20x. Let's just first take a look at a range of multiples from 5x on the low end, 10x on the high end. That is already going to produce these numbers, these fair prices per share. So like $44 to $86, pretty insane if you ask me. Well, let's also, for fun, go to an even higher range, because again, we saw that the median multiple is 20x. So let's just try 10x on the low end, 20x on the high end. And then, of course, you're going to arrive at astronomical prices of $86 on the low end, $169 on the high end. And keep in mind, for this calculation, for this method, we don't even need to discount this back to the present, because the current multiples of the competitors of the other companies are also based on the numbers of 2024, which means there's no discrepancy between the years you're looking at. If we would have been taking a look at the current revenue multiples of hydrogen companies in 2021, and we would apply that to the revenue of Hyzon Motors in 2024, then yes, then we would need to discount it back to the present. But in this case, all numbers are from 2024, which means we don't need to discount it back to the present. So again, the question to you is, what do you think is a fair range of multiples? Do you think we should be looking at a range of multiples of 10x on the low end, 20x on the high end, maybe 5 to 10x, maybe 3 to 5x, maybe even lower? Let me know what you think. So based on all of these calculations, Hyzon Motors could actually be very undervalued right now. Of course, don't trust me, verify me, always check what I'm doing, always check if the calculations are actually correct. And also keep in mind, you need to take into account many assumptions here. You need to believe that hydrogen is going to be a massive part of the future. You need to believe as well that Hyzon Motors is going to be a massive player in this industry. You need to believe that Hyzon Motors is going to achieve their goal of 2024 revenue. And you need to believe that the current companies in the hydrogen sector are fairly valued and that the multiples are not actually overvalued. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you believe Hyzon Motors is going to be a dominant player with a lot of revenue, with a high multiple as well. I'd love to know that. With that being said, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye! What's up, millennials? Today we're going to take a look at the valuation of a company called Hyzon Motors, and this is a hydrogen fueled battery freaking, I don't know,